Chào mừng quý vị đến với chương trình Những phát biểu nổi bật trong ngày 19 tháng 2. Chương trình cập nhật những gì các nhà lãnh đạo thế giới đã nói liên quan đến tình hình chiến sự tại Trung Đông, cuộc xung đột Ukraine cùng với các diễn biến xã hội đáng lưu ý khác. Trong chương trình hôm nay, Israel kêu gọi quốc tế CHIωρίáp lực buộc HEZBOLLAH và Iran rút khỏi Nam Liban. Tổng thống Mỹ điện đàm trấn an ông Zelensky. Ukraine báo cáo độ nhạy của tên lửa Triều Tiên được Nga triển khai trên chiến trường. Trung Quốc cảnh báo việc tách khỏi Bắc Kinh là sai lầm lịch sử. Ông Trump tố phán quyết của thẩm phán New York là thủ đoạn can thiệp bầu cử. Mời quý vị theo dõi ngay sau đây.
Iran violate all its commitments regarding nuclear weapons, missile development, and support for terror. Our brave soldiers are fighting in Gaza in very hard conditions, and we pay a heavy price. Even so, Israel allows to supply to the Palestinians broad humanitarian aid. We have no intention to deport any of them out of the Gaza Strip. The Hamas uses schools, hospitals, mosques, and bases belonging to UNRWA for terror needs, such as connecting all their attacking tunnels they built throughout Gaza. Israel does not want to hurt any Palestinian civilians, so we move them to safe zones while the Hamas are trying to prevent it. We have no intention to rule the civilian life in Gaza after the war.
We can get our land back, and Putin can lose. And this has already happened more than once on the battlefield. Our actions are limited only by the sufficiency and length of the range of our strengths, but what does not depend on us. And Avdiivka situation proves this exactly. Dear friends, unfortunately, keeping Ukraine in the artificial deficit of weapons, particularly in deficit of artillery and long-range capabilities, allows Putin to adapt to the current intensity of the war. This self-weakening of democracy over time undermines our joint results.
Найголовніше завдання – ми бережемо наших людей, наших воїнів, тому що це і є захист. А зброя будь-яка, ми вдячні всім нашим партнерам, але будь-яка зброя, зрозуміло, вона допомагає відновлювати справедливість і мир на території України. Але передусім всі знають, що людина тримається, військовий тримається. Військовий звільняє території, захищає домівки, захищає людей, сім'ї. І тому рішення правильне, щоб не попасти в оточення, прийнято рішення відійти на інші рубежі. Це не значить, що це люди вийшли на якісь кілометри і Росія щось захопила.
I spoke with Zelensky this afternoon to let him know that I was confident we're going to get that money to keep that country from being overrun by Russia. You know, there's so much at stake. I watched the television the other night, and one of the other Republican candidates saying, I've never explained to the American people why NATO is so important. NATO is critical to our survival. NATO is held, we have never been able to avoid a European conflict. As long as there's NATO, we have allies that are competent and have defended us. And by the way, the only time Article 5 has been invoked is when we were attacked on 9/11. So the idea that we're going to walk away from Ukraine, the idea that we're going to let NATO begin to split, is totally against the interests of the United States of America, and it is against our word we've given since all the way back to Eisenhower. So it's about time we make sure that Congress come home and pass the legislation funding NATO. It's critical. Our security depends on it. I'm not. No one can be. Look, the Ukrainian people fought so bravely and heroically. They put so much on the line. And the idea that now they're running out of ammunition and walk away, I find it absurd. I find it unethical. I find it just contrary to everything we are as a country. So I'm going to fight till we get them the ammunition they need and the capacity they need to defend themselves.
В настоящее время проводятся мероприятия по окончательной зачистке города от боевиков, блокированию украинских подразделений, оставивших город и засевших на Авдеевском токсохимическом комбинате.
At the moment, at least 24 ballistic missiles of allegedly North Korean origin were used during Russia's missile attacks on the territory of Ukraine. In total, between December 30, 2023 and February 7, 2024, the enemy launched at least 12 attacks on 7 regions of Ukraine with this type of missile. The accuracy of missiles is also questionable. Thus, out of 24 missiles fired, 2 relatively accurate strikes are known on the Kremenchuk oil refinery and the technical territory of the Kanatovo airfield. The rest of the missiles hit at considerable distance from each other, up to several kilometers or more, or exploded in the air, or hit the residential area of city of Kharkiv. We are talking about Zaporizhia region, Kyiv, 3 attacks, Kharkiv, 2 attacks, and towns and villages in Kirovohrad, Poltava, Donetsk, and Dnipro regions. These shellings killed 14 civilians, and 70 more were injured. The strike that caused the most civilian casualties occurred on January 2nd, 2024 in Kharkiv. It was shelling of city center, which killed 3 people and 64 more injured.
Unabhängig auch davon, wie anstehende Wahlen diesseits oder jenseits des Atlantiks ausgehen, eins ist doch vollkommen klar. Wir Europäer müssen uns sehr viel stärker um unsere eigene Sicherheit kümmern, jetzt und in Zukunft. Die Bereitschaft dazu ist sehr groß. Das habe ich auch Präsident Biden bei meinem Besuch vergangene Woche in Washington gesagt. Für das laufende Jahr haben wir unsere Militärhilfe auf mehr als 7 Milliarden Euro nahezu verdoppelt. Zusagen für die kommenden Jahre in Höhe von 6 Milliarden kommen hinzu. Ich wünsche mir sehr, und ich werbe gemeinsam mit einigen anderen europäischen Kolleginnen und Kollegen auch hier ganz eindringlich dafür, dass ähnliche Entscheidungen in allen europäischen Hauptstädten getroffen werden. Ich weiß, das ist nicht leicht. Auch hier in Deutschland ist das nicht leicht. Wie in anderen Ländern gibt es auch bei uns kritische Stimmen, die fragen, sollten wir das Geld nicht für andere Zwecke ausgeben? Moskau befeuert solche Zweifel noch mit gezielten Desinformationskampagnen, mit Propaganda in den sozialen Medien. Die Bedrohung durch Russland ist real. Darum muss unsere Fähigkeit zur Abschreckung und Verteidigung glaubwürdig sein und glaubwürdig bleiben. Dabei gilt weiterhin, wir wollen keinen Konflikt zwischen Russland und der NATO. Deshalb sind sich alle Unterstützer der Ukraine seit Beginn des Krieges einig, wir schicken keine eigenen Soldaten in die Ukraine. Zugleich müssen Putin und die Militärs in Moskau verstehen, wir, das stärkste Militärbündnis der Welt, sind in der Lage, jeden Quadratmeter unseres Bündnisgebiets zu verteidigen.
Effective deterrence is our life insurance. For me, deterrence has at least 3 dimensions. First and foremost, money. We need the resources to invest in deterrence. I am proud to say that this year we will spend over 2% of our GDP on defense in Germany. I'm also realistic enough to see that this might not be enough in the years to come. Eastern and Central Europe. We do not want, of course, arms produced in Germany to fall into the wrong hands. That is very clear. At the same time, we cannot expect countries in the global south to defend themselves and the rules-based international order if we deny them the equipment they need. If we refuse to cooperate with certain African states because they do not fully meet our standards, our values, then Russia will step in. Usually not for the good of the country or the stability of the region.
Of this year, she's Emma Louise Powell.
I don't know yet where we find the money, but we need it. And what the Chancellor said this morning is absolutely right. We can discuss about spending for social issues, for education, for digitalization, for infrastructure and whatever else, but without security, without freedom, insecurity, without secure freedom, everything else is nothing.
Well, NATO has a well-established nuclear deterrent. It has worked for decades. It's something the United States does together with European allies. We have agreed command and control, we have exercises, we have doctrines, and it's actually something we do together as NATO. And I think that any questioning of that deterrent will only undermine NATO in a time where we really need credible deterrence. So of course, we have the United States as a nuclear power, we have France and UK, but the idea of developing some kind of parallel joint nuclear deterrent among some NATO allies, not including the United States, and presumably then not UK either, that's not helpful, and it will only undermine a nuclear deterrent that has worked well for many, many years. The European allies and Canada have provided more support to Ukraine in total than the United States. And of course, the United States have done a lot, particularly when it comes to military support to Ukraine. But the problem now is, of course, the lack of decision in the US Congress means that the flow from the US has gone down, and that has a direct impact on the front line in Ukraine. So, of course, this is not only about making the right decision, but it's about making the right decision early, as quickly as possible, because it's urgent. Every week we wait means that there will be more people killed on the front line in Ukraine. So it's not for me to give advice on how to pass legislation through the US Congress, but what I can say is the vital and urgent need for the US to decide on a package for Ukraine, because we need that support, and we have a burden sharing between Europe and Canada and the United States, so now it's for the US to deliver what they have promised.
反对脱钩断链现在已经成为国际共识，越来越多的有识之士认识到，不合作才是最大的风险。谁试图以去风险之名搞去中国化，谁就将犯下历史性的错误。那么，反对这个两岸统一的，要搞独立的是谁？不是我们呢，而是目前在岛内执政的这个党啊，叫做民进党。所以要坚持一个中国的原则，就应该支持中国的和平统一。要想维护台海的和平稳定，就必须要坚决的反对台独，因为台独和台海的稳定是水火不容的。
The decision yesterday in New York, you may have read about it. Crooked judge. He's a crooked judge. By a radical left-wing judge was a lawless and unconstitutional atrocity that sets fire to our laws like no one has ever seen in this country before. That happens in banana republics. It doesn't happen in this country. The case is a complete and total sham. It's a sham case. There were no victims, no defaults, no damages, no complaints, no nothing. There was nothing. Go and just find me $355 million for doing everything right. 355. And these repulsive abuses of power are not just an attack on me. They're really an attack on you and all Americans. It's a disgusting thing. These people, they're not looking for justice. They only care about how to stop crooked Joe Biden's political opponent, that's me, and how to inflict as much pain as possible. But here we are. They've been doing this for 7 years, and we won, we won twice. And now we're going to win a third time. We'll win a third time.
Putin will be successful in Ukraine. That will have an impact on all of us in terms of our collective safety and defense. And we should, because you also mentioned the West, the US, stop moaning and whining and nagging about Trump. We do not spend more on defense or we ramp up ammunition production because Trump might come back. It's up to the Americans. I'm not an American. I cannot vote in the US. And we have to work with whoever is on the dance floor. So we have to do this because we want to do this, because it is in our interest. This is crucial. And all that whining and moaning about Trump, I hear that constantly over the last couple of days. Let's stop doing it.